To order. Roll call, please.
Alderman Woods.
Here.
Alderman Messina.
Here.
Alderman Sismarski.
Here.
Alderman Catalano.
Here.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Here.
Alderman Sorrentino.
Here.
Alderman Peter Jacob.
Here.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
And first of all, I need approval of minutes for Public Works Committee meeting, regular meeting, September 27th, 2018.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we got a report and recommendation for approval of design contract with Robinson Engineering for the Ward 2 and 3 design contract, Phase 1, and the not to exceed amount of $480,000 even. That is my motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley. Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, I have approval of a contract with Elk Grove Mechanical for the HVAC services at Public Works facilities in a yearly amount of $16,668. There's my motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Questions?
Oh, questions. Eugene Wesley?
I have a question. I thought we were looking at, that we have talked about merging all these contracts together, the city hall and all that. Why is this still not happening?
Mr. York?
Yeah, well, one of the reasons why they were at different timetables in the calendar of when they came up, the city hall uses GHC. So I contacted GHC to get them a price quote to see if we could combine them. And obviously, we see from the document that GHC Mechanical was a little higher, so that's why we decided to not merge them to a single vendor and to stay with Elk Grove Mechanical.
So,
Go ahead.
so then why didn't we reach out to Elk Grove for the city, for the city hall then? I mean, I thought it was gonna be a lot easier, and we talked about a couple times about starting to merge these contracts together. So, I mean, I just don't know why, and I think some of the council members agreed with it at one time. So where are we at with this? I mean, we're gonna keep going separate contracts?
Mr. York?
I'm not 100% sure. I wasn't involved in the city hall contract. I know that they did get price quotes. I don't know who they got price quotes from. Yes, I mean, should we work together to try to get one vendor? But if we're having different prices, I mean, if I would have just gone with GHC, I could have just come to the board and said, hey, GHC does this contract. I'm just gonna have them do our contract. I wouldn't have gotten a better price from using Elk Grove Mechanical. So,
When's the city hall contract up?
I do not know
Jeff?
that.
Off the top of my head, I wouldn't remember.
So I would ask that this gets tabled until we see what when the city hall contract is up. So if it's up almost now, then
Well,
maybe
you
we
already,
need,
you already have a motion to second first, so.
We can get an answer by next week.
Yeah.
that's fine, well, we can answer next week.
We have a motion to second first. You gotta vote for us.
Roll call.
Roll call?
Alderman Roy Wesley.
No?
Alderman Sorrentino.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
No.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, we have approval for a new pump for the North Wastewater Treatment Plant for the Metropolitan Pump, not to exceed amount of $35,266. That is my motion.
Second.
Well, yeah, that's it, yeah. Any questions? No questions? Roll call?
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, I have approval of contract between the City of Wooddale and Concentric Integration for the water system flow matrix in the not to exceed amount of $21,200. That is my motion.
Second.
Mr. Woods,
Thank you, Alderman Smarsky.
you're welcome.
Chairman,
You're welcome.
Matt, what does this thing do?
Mr. York?
Yeah, it helps it's integrated with our SCADA system, which will allow us to change settings upon the water system other than just pumps are on or off. We can set them at half flow rates or multiple different changings of rates so that we can keep a better control of our water system instead of lights on, lights off, like a dimmer switch kind of thing.
Mr. Messina?
Thank you.
I'm sorry, do you have a rebuttal? No.
No, I'm
Mr.
good.
Messina?
So it's essentially, it's a sensor of sorts.
Yeah,
That's
it's
my
a-
impression in reading it. Okay.
Yeah, it's a PLC and sensors that will allow us to keep flow rates steady. With your water system, you want to try to keep everything as stable as possible because ups and downs cause things like water main breaks and things like that to happen bad to the system. So you want to keep everything as stable as possible.
Is there a remote possibility that it could be remotely done by yourself or somebody else, or does it have to be done through the plant?
Well, it's through the SCADA system, so the SCADA system can be remotely operated.
Okay. I just want to make sure it's applicable to the
Yes.
SCADA system, okay. Mr. Wesley?
Was this the only supplier to use or that fits our system?
Stewart?
Yes, Concentric used to be Baxter and Woodman CSI or SCI. It was Baxter and Woodman's computer wing. They're the ones that built the system. They're the ones that have built all the components within the system. So right now, they are our sole SCADA provider.
No other questions? Roll call?
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
No.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, I have a presentation on senior disabled grass cutting program. Mr. York?
Yes, okay, so it was brought to my attention that both items E and F were something that the council wanted to discuss. So we'll start with the grass cutting program. The senior and disabled grass cutting program would hopefully, if everything passes, be starting in the 2019 season. It'll be based upon what we would like to use is our senior and disability sticker, the same criteria for the water rates and the stickers to keep it kind of the same across the board, have one set of standards. This program would require residents to apply for it on an annual basis to meet certain standards based upon income and as such, and then also to follow the rules of the program that have been set out within the packet information. Things like making sure that if they have dogs, that it's picked up before the grass cutting people come through. You'd have it set at a certain once a week come through and do the lawn cutting. It's not going to be a simple program to administer for the fact that currently right now we have 161 people that get disability water rates, so 161 residences. So say we have 161 grasses that we need to cut. One, we'll have to get contractors to do it, obviously. City staff is not going to be able to do that. But we're also going to need staff to monitor who's getting cut, who's not getting cut, stay up on the contract as well. And then there'll also be invoicing that'll need to be done to the residents. And then there'll need to be some sort of turn off if they don't pay for the service that is rendered. Currently, we do not have any pricing because pricing is going to be dictated by quantity. The more people we can have involved in it, hopefully the cheaper price we can get per lawn. It'll be a per lawn rate, so if you have a 50 or 75 by 100 foot lot or a 100 foot by 150 foot lot, it's going to be the same rate. We're not going to be able to go out and do square footage and I have a pool, I shouldn't have to pay as much or those kinds of things. So there'll be, what we would like to do with this program now is to get something out in the hands of those 161 residents' homes and see if there's any interest in it prior to us starting the budgetary process and, start talking to some contractors about probable costs.
So this is gonna be outsourced?
Yes, it's gonna have to be.
Mr. Woods?
So when you're saying that we're gonna get a flat rate from the contractor, or we're only gonna subsidize a flat
Yes.
rate? 'Cause I
Yes.
don't envision
Yes.
lawn service cutting a half acre at the same price as a third.
Mr. York?
Well, what we would do, it'd be very similar to the way that we construct our like tree removal for city trees, how we constructed that contract. So if we want to do multiple different size yards, we could do that as part of the bidding process. And then we could decide, the council could decide how much we want to subsidize. Do we want to subsidize a flat rate? $15, $20, $30? Do we want to subsidize a percentage of the cost? Or we could just tell the contractors that, hey, these are all the properties you're going to have to mow. Give us a rate. Give us a single rate to mow all these properties. So somebody's going to pay, may pay a little bit more. Somebody may pay a little bit less per square footage or whatever. We base this very similarly off of the Bensonville product that they're doing. And their cost, somehow, I'm not exactly sure how, but they are saying that their cost is $15 per home to mow a yard. And they're paying 50% of that. And if there's edging, there's a different cost. And if there's bagging, there's a different cost. But they're doing a 50% subsidy on that.
Mr. Catalano?
So if the homeowner already has a landscaper cutting his grass, can they still maintain the same landscaper?
No, I think for simplicity of the program, if they're going to go on the city program, they're going to use the city contractor. Because then also, say, we're with contractor Y and contractor A is your contractor and you're charging $60 to do your yard, but my guy says they can do it for $35, why should I pay, so, yeah, I think simplicity of the contract, if I know that everybody on the board is in the program and they're all getting cut by the same guy and I go to everybody's house and check on them, spot check them, and Alderman Sismarski's is not done, I know exactly who to contact versus, okay, go back to who is doing his yard.
Mr. Jacob?
One of the questions I have on this, as far as some of the things in Bensonville, and I think when you said it's $15, I believe the resident pays $15 and the city pays $15. I don't think it's $15 for the whole lawn.
Well,
Mr.
the program that I have says cost of service per visit is $15, village subsidy is $7.50, cost resident is $7.50. That is the policy that I received from the city manager, or the village manager.
Yeah,
Follow
yeah,
That is on Village of Bensonville letterhead.
okay.
So,
I'll double check, because the way I mean, I actually brought this up, and I brought it up to Alderman Messina as well, and we brought it up to the mayor and Jeff. I think my dad always gets a bill for like $15, but I could double check that.
well,
Mr. York?
there's also in their program, they also have edging and bagging. And if he does edging and bagging, that's an additional charge.
Okay, maybe that's why, because I think,
Yes.
and the only, it's been working well in as far as I could say for my father. I mean, the only two issues that, you know, that he's had, other than, I mean, they do a real good, the landscapers that they have do a good job. One issue is when they bill, I've yet to see a bill come to my dad's house, because I take care of the bills for him. So my dad usually goes to Public Works, and every time they leave the house, they leave him a statement for the $15, the ticket. So he'll just eventually go to Public Works and just pay, he'll collect like 4 or 5 tickets and then take it there and pay it. I've yet to see a bill come to his house from the city or the village. And then number 2 is at one point, one of their contractors did quit and not tell the city. So I had actually asked my dad, you know, what was going on, that they weren't mowing the lawn, because it was getting quite long, and my dad likes to mow the lawn a lot. So I called, and the girl told me that that was the issue they had. So somehow, you know, keep an eye on that. But other than that, it's been a real smooth process. A couple of my dad's neighbors use the service, and they're real happy with it, and it seems to work well for the seniors.
Is it,
so.
is that every week they bill them, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, their program is they mow once a week
Okay.
and they bill, I don't know how they do their billing.
Mr. Sorrentino, you had a question?
Thank you, Chairman, Mr. Chairman. You know, I think this could be an ideal time, Matt, because you're looking to see how many residents. Right now, you're kind of limiting yourself with 161 residents that have perhaps a senior vehicle sticker. What about the seniors that are alone and healthy, or they exceed these financial limitations? Why couldn't we charge that population the same cost that we're charging the disabled and the, these would be seniors as well, and that could increase your numbers, which could downplay your cost factors with the contractor?
Mr. York?
I guess the more people we have involved in this will decrease the amount probably per resident to pay. It'll also increase the amount that the city will be required to pay per our side of the subsidy. Plus, the more people that are involved in the program, the more time constraint it takes some members of city staff to manage this program.
Follow up?
Follow up, thank you. Mr. York, what I was thinking of is if the other people outside of this original population were to pay directly to the contractor at the price given to the lower income families. So it leaves the city out of it. City's not paying a dime for these people. They would just have the convenience of perhaps of law of large numbers discount. And they would be billed individually and pay individually.
Yeah,
Mr. York?
I would have to, I think we're some chatter up on the dais. I would have to check with legal to see if that's something that we can do. And if it is, then that would be between the contractor and the resident to work out that agreement. I don't think we can force the contractor to hold a city price for one program for something else. I know that in the past, I've worked with something similar to this for a tree removal contract, but there was always an upcharge to go onto the private property because of the more difficulty, because they're not right next to the roadway, so it's a little bit more time consuming. So they couldn't offer the same pricing structure. So I guess I'd have to go to legal and get that cleared up first.
I'd like you to look into that if you could, please. Thank you very much.
Mr. Wesley?
Matt, insurance. How is the city going to be responsible for checking the insurance on these landscapers? And how are you if that's the case, how are you gonna keep track of that? They don't cancel their insurance in mid-season.
Mr. York?
I see that you have in here too that the residents leave the city harmless from anything, but if something flies from a lawnmower and hits a kid on the street, you know darn well the insurance company is gonna come to the city first and saying, you hired this contractor.
Mr. York?
Well, as every contractor needs to provide us with certificate of insurance, and they would have to sign a contract with us that states that they have certain levels of insurance. So if they cancel it in midstream, I'm not 100% sure how we would know that to check on that. But we would do that on a yearly basis.
Follow up?
I just don't want someone getting hurt. And if the insurance policy is $100,000 or $1 million, and a kid gets hit, and it goes over their insurance policy, it's gonna go back to the homeowners.
And that's not anything that staff would want to have happen either. I just don't know how to, yeah,
Address it.
yeah, we have lots of attorneys that would love to have that part of that.
Mr. Messina, you've been waiting patiently.
Yeah, so I actually had a lot of conversations with different communities, especially at IML. So just wanted to share a couple things. One thing, the net of the recommendation was outsource it. Because typically, and I'm pretty confident Bensonville, just to get it off the ground, did it very scrappy. And while the cost initially is really low, it ends up becoming all that hidden cost that I think you've talked about, Matt. It just skyrockets, right? So the maintenance. So some of the things that I jotted down from my notes before that I got was, to Alderman Catalano's point, you cannot let an existing contractor do this because whether you like it or not, integrity issues are there. Most invoices that are created, some communities had Joe Schmo creating a paper invoice. I know my landscaper just gives me a piece of paper. It looks like a 12th grader invoiced it, right? So the integrity issue is there. So they try to keep a consistent group of people that they can validate. They also talked about the rat race, and if you don't outsource it, some of the communities, I forgot which one, but it was way out west, said that it was a rat race where Public Works was chasing these people down, and because aldermen would call and be like, Miss Betty Sue called and they didn't show up. So what's going on? And then you guys spending all your time in a car driving around checking if these properties were mowed. And then scheduling variances is something that I haven't heard anybody mention that somebody mentioned before. I like my grass cut through November. My neighbor likes their grass cut through October. And so how do we maintain that and manage that, and how do we keep the costs appropriate? So the net of all these different conversations was basically whatever you do possible, even if it's a little higher, you'll save on the back end, is try to outsource the program. And so I just wanted to share those things. I'm all for it. I've desperately been asking for it, but very, very curious to see what you come back with. And I just hope we don't take the scrappy route just to get it off the ground, because there's going to be a lot more problems for staff down the road and a lot more hidden costs later. Thank you.
Mr. Wesley?
I just
Yeah,
have
sure.
one question. It says when the snow, timing of the snow removal will be determined on
We're
this.
on grass cutting still.
Huh?
We're on grass
Oh,
cutting
okay,
still.
that was all together. Okay.
Mr. Woods?
Yeah, I was gonna clear up the insurance question. So they would be naming the city as additionally insured, and as such, the insurance agent or broker would call as soon as the policies lapse or is ended, they would call they're required to send a written notice to the city or whoever the insurance holder is.
Mayor?
Yeah, regarding adding more people, I mean, if we follow the same guidelines for all our programs, it makes it easier for us to handle. And as far as doing a shabby job, I mean, you're talking about the spring, so we got some time to get this lined up, right? Right, but, I mean, this is for starting in the spring, so just so we get everything lined up properly and correctly.
Mr. Murmas?
Yeah, I think some keys to consider, obviously, we want to have this well advertised and well organized, and get that information now, so we can not only be prepared for the budget, but understand the demand for it, and also keep it consistent with our other programs, which is what we recommended for the thresholds for those that really may need the program. Those are really our main priorities, to get the word out, gather the information, and make it consistent across the board, so we could not have as much of a logistical headache that we're already going to have, because mark my words, I'm familiar with this program from a personal perspective. A relative of mine had it, and he was very demanding with his snow shoveling and his grass mowing, and very questioning of when it was going to get done, go out there himself and do it, and then there'd be confusion with the city, call the city 5,000 times. I mean, we will have this, and we will have people constantly questioning, when is it going to get done? Why was it done on this day? It will be a headache regardless. So we want to keep the numbers to those who need the program the most.
Right. And everybody, just so everybody knows that's watching, it's not this year, it's 2019 program, so it'll be the spring and the fall 2019, so. Do you have a follow-up?
Yes. So basically, promoting is number one, right? Because a few months ago, I had somebody, talking about water rates and stuff. I go, well, did you try? They actually qualified for the water discounts, and they didn't even know about it. So I believe something was in the newsletter a few months back, but not everybody reads the newsletter, not everybody watches our meetings, so promotion, let people know what's going on. That number may go up from the 161 anyways on the water, even the water, so we need to let people know what's going on.
Mr. Murmas?
What I'm envisioning is we'd probably have Grant do some sort of separate citywide mailer piece, just so we could, like you said, there may be people that don't know about certain programs, send the piece out, and then see what we get back. But that would be the idea, to do a separate mailing piece.
Mr. Messina?
Yeah, so my thought, and this was mentioned too in those conversations, but some towns, if we can't get this outsourced, but can we look at maybe adding a headcount? I don't know where that person would sit, whether it would be community development or public works, but somebody that would manage the program, that would be that point person for, insurance, would be that point person for those people that are demanding, that have complaints, because essentially, you're gonna get a call, and they're probably gonna all funnel into one or two people, or they're gonna funnel to 20 different people. Things are gonna get lost in translation, paperwork's gonna get lost, we're all gonna have 20 different people complaining. In your analysis, Matt, if you don't mind, could you look at the cost of just literally creating a new position called a programs administrator, or a program manager, or a senior programs manager, whatever that might look like, because even if it's at a lower scale, might be worthwhile, might be cheaper than trying to outsource this. And this person, it's not the toughest job in the world, it's just a lot of logistics and a lot of management. It's really all it is.
Mr. York?
part of me is a little concerned about some of the terminology that's being used. When you use the word outsource, in the public works world, outsourcing means contracted to a supplier or something to do something. There's also outsourcing, which means the city isn't involved in any real aspect of the services that are being provided, and the phone calls go to some company someplace, and they deal with all the issues. So,
Similar to trash or street.
yeah,
sweeping.
like trash or street sweeping. So,
trash, all their other stuff.
I guess I kind of want to make sure that I understand which outsourcing we want to do. I think if the city's going to be involved in this, I'm really up for either one of those two. I think it's probably easier to find a entity that will just come in and cut the grass versus somebody that'll come in and basically run a program for us. So,
They'll take the calls, though. They'll be getting calls to their office, not ours, correct?
No.
that is definitely the question that I have right now. And you're
That's what I
answering it
want. I
one
want
way and
someone
you're
to-
answering it another way.
I want it to be called to them, not to us.
Right. Well-
That way we don't have to answer to them, because we don't answer to the garbage company or sweeping
Well-
company, they answer to them.
So
We're
then,
outsourcing, we're paying for it, so we should also-
okay.
I'll take this one. To provide the level of service that Wooddale residents are going to want, I think we need to keep it internal as far as administering the program, at least for the first year, see what we have, and then go from there. I just don't trust a landscaping company to handle the customer service component of it. Nothing against landscape companies. They're busy out there in the field doing their work. It's better for the residents if we kind of take some of those calls.
Any further questions? I don't know. There's no roll call needed, it's just,
There's no motion yet.
there's no motion.
no
Well,
action.
there's nothing, it's information only, pretty much. It's just giving staff direction
They
on,
need direction to move forward.
I'd like to make a motion to go out for RFI, request for information, on a senior disabled grass cutting program.
all is it for Wesley?
What,
All right, need his hand up.
information and is in what, prices or?
That would be an RFQ. I'm asking for an RFI, request for information. If they want to do it, I can revise my motion. If we're ready to go out for pricing, we can make it an RFQ. Probably not, looking at his face, no. So I would keep my motion as an RFI, request for information.
What information we looking
The idea is to see one, we need to figure out who's interested in the community, right? Secondly, we need to figure out what contractors, if any, are interested in participating in the program. Thirdly, they need to see if there is such a facility out there or a company that does outsourcing for the billing and all that, or give them time to come back in a presentation to say it's cheaper to add a head count in one of the departments. So that's why I kept it as an RFI.
It's York.
I think moving forward with this, I think the RFI is probably where we need to go. There'd be no cost analysis at this time
Right.
because we have no idea how many people. And then at the same time, while we get RFI out onto the street, also do some sort of informational mailer to try to garner some sort of interest on whether or not, because if we only get back, I know surveys and stuff are not good, but if we send it out to everybody and we get, if you're interested in the program, send back this postcard or call this phone number and give us your information, and we get 5 phone calls. This type of program, this is gonna be a lot of work to get it all set up and stuff, and if we don't have a certain number of people, I don't want to do it for 30 people.
I agree.
If we're at 50 or 100 or 150 or 200, okay, maybe, but to put the resources out for 30 or 40 people, I don't know if that's a benefit, depending on, do we need to hire somebody to assist with that and assist with the next item as well?
Mr. Sorrentino?
Thank you. I think in order to draw attention from the residents that's going to be sent this notice, you need to have some sort of a price range. Because they're all going to look at this, they're all going to say, well, how much is it going to be? So you may not get the return you expect. So if you could say you're putting a program together and possibly the cost could be from A to C, at least they got something that'll spark their interest.
Mr. Jacob?
I know in Bensonville, they automatically sent out a form to, it said you had to meet certain requirements, because I was one that opened the piece of mail. It said you had to meet these requirements, fill out the information, and then you need to come to, I don't remember if it was City Hall or Public Works, and show documentation of your age, or that you don't, handicap or income, or what, they had a few different requirements on there. So I know my dad had to go in there, so I don't know.
Already from the garbage and the water rates, so, if they make it or not, if they qualify. We already have the garbage and water rate listed as handicap senior. So if they don't meet it, then he would know right away.
Yeah, but as the mayor had said, some people didn't even know about the water discount, some seniors, so.
We can provide all of the documentation that they need. We can hopefully provide some sort of range of cost, but I don't, it'll also need to probably have to have some sort of idea from the council how much we're going to be willing to
Pay.
subsidize as well.
We'll see what the outcome is. Mr. Mayor first, I'm sorry.
Quick question, I believe was in the packet, but these are for residents that have single-family homes that they have to do it themselves. Those that live in townhomes and whatnot, that's already contracted out through assessments and all that stuff. So those are not eligible, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Murmas?
Yeah, I think all we need is direction to proceed forward with getting the information, because the council is somewhat interested in the program. We'll get the information back, which will allow us to then send out this piece. And then once we get the information back from the piece, that would kind of coincide with bringing updated information back to you as we kind of head into budget season to see if we want to keep progressing forward, and then how much we would need to allocate during the budget. Grass and snow is, it's really the same, so
Mr. Sorrentino?
Thank you. Last one, I promise. It's a very valid concern that in order to kick off a program, you need a solid amount of people that are interested. That's why I recommended some sort of a price range. But I also think you can widen that audience if you got off of just the disabled or the seniors and the disabled. Out of 14,000 people, we're notifying 161 that this program may be available. So you're going to want at least 50% of that or more to go forward. Now, if you got 2,000 people and you get 50%, you may have a winner. I'm done with my
Roy,
question.
what, Mr. Rosen, Roy? Usually Wesley?
I have, so what is the motion on the floor that's going here? Because if that motion is paid.
Request for information on this motion, on the grass cutting.
Is that for both?
Well, we could,
You have to do it separate.
He just said.
you could put them in both, because it probably do both, correct? Or find a company that does both, Mr.
I would do
Murmas?
both.
So I think we just need direction to move forward with getting the information for the programs.
Both
So
programs.
Both programs and using that information to send out an appropriate mailer,
Okay.
bring the information back
Okay.
during budget season.
So I'd like to amend my motion to request that Public Works go out for an RFI to collect information at this point on both senior and disabled grass cutting and snow removal programs.
Items E and F on the
Items
agenda.
E and F on the Public Works
There
Committee.
you go.
That would be my amended motion.
Second,
I would agree.
Mr.
But I'd
Murmas?
also like some direction to send out the mailer.
Yeah, that,
So that would
fine.
be
That's-
part of it as well, right? I don't want to make this more confusing, but in your mailer to Alderman Sorrentino's point, are we going to put any range or percentage in that? Because I think that will dictate who responds yes or no.
Mr. Murmas?
I think what we'll do, because this is obviously somewhat of a complex program, really,
Yep.
to start, so I think we'll probably brainstorm and probably end up
Come back.
shooting out a draft to you guys
That's, yeah.
before
So,
we send anything out.
so yeah, so that would be my point. So that's why I asked for just an RFI for collection of the information to bring back sooner than later, before we send out the mailer. So my amended motion would not include to send out the mailer, but I would hope that that would give you guys less to do, and bring back something to council faster, so that we can move to phase 2, where they would collect prices.
Mailer might help them get an idea of how many people are actually interested, though. That, I mean, I would actually just do it. And that way we know if we're looking at 150 or if we're looking at 25 people.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean-
it's going to be very difficult to send out an RFQ later
Yeah.
to some company and ask them to give us a price on cutting grass on residential lots in town. The first question they're gonna ask is, how many lots are there?
Right, well, I'm saying my request is, this is not the end all, right? So I'm saying you guys wanna do 1 and 2, you want an RFI, then RFQ. I'm saying RFI phase 1, collect information, we have nothing. RFI phase 2, come back and say, this is what we have found. Now let's talk about what council would agree to as far as reimbursement and what groups would be phase 2. Phase 3 is, let's go out for RFQ.
Yeah, we're fine with that.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sure.
Basically, to Jeff's point,
I
it's a
mean,
draft.
I would like to see how many people are interested. Just
It'll
for-
be in phase
just
2.
for the hell of it.
We're gonna ballpark it with,
Yeah.
we'll be fine.
Okay,
All right.
so that,
Woods?
Could you just give me a quick rundown, who's the target audience for this? This is seniors,
This
Seniors and
seniors
disabled.
and disabled.
what's the age of, what's the senior?
Mr. York?
Yeah, it's, no. If you would look,
Mr. York?
if, in your packet, there is the things that they need to hit in order to be eligible for the program. So it's, you must own your property, you must be 65 or older, to follow the senior part, or must be disabled. You must have a household income of $35,250 for a one-person home, or $41,250 for a two-person home, which is the same income standard as the water rates. And you must not have anybody in your household that can do the job that we're subsidizing them for. So if I'm old and my wife and my 30-year-old daughter lives in my house, she is has the ability to go out and cut the grass, and now that's going to be harder for us to figure out. But if they hit one of those other standards, we'll.
All of us, Woods?
Well, I'll take it easy on them, I won't ask who's gonna follow up, who's living in the house and how capable they are.
I said that would be hard.
I won't ask that question.
I'll let you-
Asked and answered.
Mr. Catalano?
Also, the veterans included in that?
Mr. York?
This is a senior and disabled program. So as of right now, there is no veteran, if they're a veteran and they're a senior, or
Disabled.
they're a veteran and disabled, but we don't have a veterans clause. It's just a normal veteran.
Mr. Jacob?
In your talking to Bensonville, or Mr. Morris talking to Bensonville, do we know how many people are participating in the village there? Did they give you guys a number?
I don't have that number.
Mr. Murmas?
I did not get an exact number. I did get discussion focusing around that it would be labor intensive on an internal staff level to handle some of the questioning about timing of the services.
Mr. York?
I think if we're going to, until the motion gets voted on, I mean, since now we have taken one program that's going to be very labor intensive and we've mushed it together with another program that's going to be very labor intensive, and I know Alderman Eugene Wesley has had some questions on that, is we want to talk a little bit about snow removal prior to voting on this? Because I think,
Not till next year, though. I mean, it's, don't most companies that do this have both? I mean, could we find one that does do both? Mr. York?
that's one of the options,
Just
yes, but
information. I mean,
I,
speech for information, so
yeah, I think,
why don't we do that? Look for information for someone who does both. Mayor?
I think if anybody has some questions, Matt should hear them right now. I know Eugene had a couple on the snow. Just so we, let's get the questions out now, so they know so they know what we're looking for.
There's a motion and a second. I mean, why don't we just,
But it's RFI for both.
why don't we do RFI and find a company that does both? There's plenty of them out there.
But again, let's hear what the questions are. Maybe, I'm not sure what Alderman Wesley's question was. We should hear it.
Still falls in the same parameters. All right, whatever.
But he had a question.
There's a second in this, so who's got the
For
question?
RFI, but Eugene, you still have a question on snow?
I have a question on in the snow removal must be out of the driveways or of the property within 8 hours after the snowfall. How are we gonna monitor that?
Mr. York?
well, that's going to be difficult. When does the snow actually stop? Does it stop and then it starts again? And do we, we've all seen the snowstorm that is, and is it 2 3/4 inches? And where is it at? Where do we register it at? I mean, those are gonna be the questions that Jeff is talking about. And if it stops snowing at 8 o'clock and I've got a doctor's appointment at 9 o'clock and I want to get out and my guy's not there until 4 o'clock, that's gonna be an issue. And it's not gonna be for me and him, it's gonna be all of ours issues.
Mr. Murmas?
Yeah, piggybacking on what Matt said and what I've tried to get across, you guys are also gonna have increased complaints, because if somebody's involved in specifically the snow program, they don't like the timing of the snow program, they gotta get out, they gotta go to the store, they're gonna call you, and they're gonna say, oh, this program sucks, da-da-da. So expect, this will increase your call logs.
That's exactly it. And Jeff, I've hammered you guys on this big time, but communication is 100% key on this. And I think the way it was explained, and I know you guys have been talking to a lot of communities as I've tried to, is this is a value-added service. We are not in the business of cutting grass, we're not in the business of snow removal, but we really want to help our residents, and so this is a value-added service. So yes, while the expectation should be here, please understand that it's a different kind of service. And part of that's on us to put out there, but I hope upfront communication in everything we put out there, if you participate in this, understand that this is the criteria, and we will not veer off that. We just need to be very clear up front, and I think that'll alleviate a lot of the problems.
Mr. York?
Our citywide snow removal policy also states that snow shall be removed within 8 hours of the end of a snowfall on the main roadways. And we all understand the fact that we try as a public works staff to do that quicker than that. And we all understand that we have all gotten the phone calls of why our roads plowed 7 minutes after it stops snowing, and I want to go 140 miles an hour down the street and not worry about sliding anywhere. So those questions are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as, go back to the grass. It rains on Friday, the guy comes and mows the grass anyway and tears up the yard. Or they're supposed to come on Friday and they don't come on Friday because it rains, but they have a birthday party on Saturday. That grass needs to be cut. They're not gonna cut it until Monday. Those are the questions that we're gonna all get all day long on all of these projects. And we're not saying that it's not a value-added project, but at certain time, it's going to be overburdensome to whoever's answering these phone calls, because we know that the residents will call. And they'll first call you guys, and then they'll finally call us, and you're trying to call us, and now we're being inundated with phone calls.
Mr. Catalano?
Yeah, so is there other communities that also have the snow removal program that Bensonville also does that?
Mr. Murmas?
I know Franklin Park had it, and like I said, there's complaints that filter in from the seniors about when the snow was shoveled. It's-
I'm gonna, I mean, I know there's complaints when it does snow, and our plows go down the street and they start, plowing in the snow in the driveway, so we're gonna have major problems that way, because it has to be coordination with the city, and that's gonna be a tough one, but.
Mayor?
That's exactly what I was gonna say. So normally I'm shoveling the snow out there. I'm done, driveway's, oh, beautiful. Here comes the plow. Gives me 2 feet of snow on the back end.
Yep.
We're gonna have to figure out how to handle that, so
Well,
that's,
yeah, and that's why there's in there that it's 8 hours after it's snowfall, so
Right.
that when we're done, 3 hours after it's done snowing, or 4 after it's
right.
done snowing.
We can't do it
then they
with
can come-
6,000 individual shovelers.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
and then they can come out and do their work on those last 4 hours.
That's the killer.
Mr. Murmas?
What happens if they have to go to J.C. Penney in 6 hours?
Is there
JC
one?
Penney's is closed.
I don't think they're open anymore.
Yeah, there's only one left.
Thanksgiving sale.
They deliver.
Amazon.
Yeah, well, there's an RFI, and there's a motion, a second. Any other questions?
That's all right.
Melissa?
All right.
You have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah. Sometimes these guys go out and plow in the middle of the night so they don't have to deal with traffic. So now you got the guy plowing the snow at a house, and the neighbor is complaining about the noise, and then the police department gets the call. So what's the police department gonna do then?
This program, whereas both of them are gonna be labor intensive, snow is going to be way worse. And, it could be, and 3 inches of snow is a lot of snow. And I went back and I looked, we average about 8.5 snowfalls of 3 inches or more a season. A lot of times they're back-to-back-to-back days. But when there's 2.8 inches of snow and we don't come out, that's gonna be a problem for all of us. When there's 2.5 inches of snow, well, it's 2.5, why can't you just come out? Whereas, so that's gonna be,
Where's
You have
that
direction,
reason?
you have direction for an RFI, we can decide to go one way or another, or nothing at all. So if we have a motion and a second, let's take a vote, let's make them back, and we may decide to scrap everything altogether, or move forward with one and baby steps to the next.
and FYI, if snowfall one won't happen this year at all. Nobody.
No, I made that
So,
clear. It's
yeah.
2019 program, not a 2018.
Well, 2019, fall of 2019.
Right. Well,
October, as
were
we're
talking
getting
s-
ready for snowfall.
You were talking snow,
Yes.
that's it.
Yes.
That's what I said. That's why I made that abundantly clear, 2019, snowfall.
January.
So you have a motion and a second. We'll take a roll call.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley. Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Motion carries. Items be considered for future meetings. Mr. Sorrentino.
I'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance at committee meetings as well as council meetings.
All right. Eugene Wesley.
We have an update on some streetlights that were approved at this council. And I believe, first one,
Oakwood.
Oakwood?
Yeah, there'll be,
What's the status of that?
there'll be information in the manager's report regarding that.
Status on the, clock tower?
Yeah.
Where's that there? How much liquidated damage is already?
Mr. Jacob?
I'd like to add on, this year we had a resident that poured the driveway with concrete and the sidewalk didn't get done. I'd like to look into possibly do a cost sharing so they could do the whole thing at one time. And I know the mayor, I think, said it really doesn't cost that much to do the sidewalk.
We don't cost share, we don't cost share on it.
No.
They cost share with the contractor.
I said, if they want to do those 3 squares or 4 squares in front of there, they can do them. It's not going to cost them much more to do it. They're not going to do the entire strip. That's what maybe you misunderstood, I'm sorry.
Okay. But all I'm saying is that I'd like to talk about that to see if we could pay for a portion of that sidewalk.
But that's why we have the sidewalk replacement. If we start doing it with everyone, I know we looked into this, I think I was the one crying when, I think it was in Ward 2, the streets over there, they were doing a project, and some of those driveways getting cut 2 feet, they went, like, why don't we do the whole thing? And the engineers figured it all out for us. I think it added like another 150,000 or 200,000 to that project. We would have to start cutting out road projects, and that's what, this would happen.
It's
Same thing here.
500,000.
How much was it?
500.
Was it 500,000? Okay, I knew it was a huge number, I was just like, whoa.
Well, I guess my question would be, I mean, there's not that many people that redo their concrete driveway on a yearly basis.
You would be surprised.
And that sidewalk project is already very high. Anything else, Mr. Wesley?
Matt, a couple of years ago, the Edison Road water line was replaced, and we never did the second phase of it. So that water line is not complete yet.
Yes.
What is going on with that? And because we took it out of the budget or something, what's going on with that?
It's currently not in the CIP, but we'll be bringing it forward in the next CIP to reinsert it into the plan.
I have one more question, a follow-up on that, since you mentioned that. Do you not see a concern on that immediately because of the water pressure that's going there and that the vibration of that line's not being completed? Because there's been some more breaks on that.
Mr. Murmas?
I remember at the time, I believe RJN was the engineer that did the Addison Road water main work, and we have documentation talking about a lot of this stuff, so I'd have to dig that out of the file and then recirculate. But I remember that came up, and RJN had some answers on that, I believe, so.
So could I get a,
Yeah, we'll get it out there.
because
That's your answer.
if it needs to be replaced, instead of replacing all repairs and everything, it needs to get done pretty quick.
Mr. Messina?
So I just wanted to go back to Alderman Jacobs' future item. We basically killed it without even consideration. So it's a future item. Can you kill it here, or can you at least bring it up, and then we can debate it up here on days?
Typically, what we do with the future items, nobody usually moans and groans about future items, but there seemed to be some moaning and groaning, so we usually don't have that.
Not moaning and groaning. I was just
Well, we should give it a fair due.
I wanted to make sure you understood what I said.
That's all you have to do, you vote no, you can shake your head all you want, but if he wants, I can shake my head for the things you wanted either. I mean, let's be fair to the guy, put it up there, if it kills, it kills. I mean,
Kill it with the guy across the street and rob the way.
so if we could put it back on there, it'd be appreciated. If it fails, it fails. If it passes, great, but it's just a future item
It's a future item.
for discussion.
Yeah, it's
What
not up
what are we,
for-
what are we
not up
putting
for
on?
motion.
What is it
Not
that you're,
It's not up for debate.
Yeah, it's not up for debate.
It's not up for debate. It's just a
So
future
we'll-
item to be talked about.
We'll bring forward a sidewalk cost-sharing program for concrete driveway replacements, something like that.
Anything else for future meetings? Need a motion for adjournment?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, we're adjourned.